Mother's Day task ahead that I'm going to be sure not to forget. The ladies who were in Sunday school put a name in this basket right here. I'm going to reach in there and take one out. And it says Miss Joanne Hunt. And there's a card. God bless you, Joanne. That's a trip to Venezuela, I think. There's a gift card in there. God bless you, Joanne. And thank you, those of you who prepared for those gifts. Back on the back pew, back here, pardon me for pointing, I'm trying to teach Avery not to point. We'll be at a restaurant, she'd say, is that somebody we know? And we'll do that. There are DVDs that have the Vacation Bible School music, CDs for playing on your CD player, audio player, of the music, of the same music without the actions and all the motions and things. So those are for you. Take them until they're all gone. You're welcome to them. DVD, Vacation Bible School. I'm listening to them myself, and I understand that I've got Terry all loaded up with them in her van when she picks up the kids in the afternoon, or when they travel. They're traveling today. But I think my girls have already learned all the words, probably most of the motions. They're ready for Vacation Bible School. I don't know if you noticed in some of those clips there that Ronnie and Karen's granddog was in there. And I don't know if they got anything from the dog for Mother's Day, but I'm sure it's the thought that counts. Yeah, Ronnie and Victoria brought their young'un by yesterday. He seemed to be happy to be out of the house. But I understand y'all were going like to a dog show or a dog party yesterday. Did you win anything, or did you participate?
We got there and we were informed that it was postponed a week for the weather. There were still a lot of other dogs that came too that didn't know, so they all got to hang out. They
didn't do a very good word of getting the notice out. Well, all right, you're on. Yeah, she would have won. So no doubt about that at all. She had her bandana on and everything. It was very sharp looking. All right. You let me know if there's something that I forget. You know, sometimes I've never punched a church member. There's been a lot of close calls though. After everybody's gone home, say, you know, preacher, you forgot to say something to Ann today, and I know she went home mad. So she does that all the time. So you just have to kind of get along with it. No, Ann never gets mad, and except at JL. That's understandable. I get mad at JL too. But don't label everything as over and say, you know, we didn't do this or that. I might hit you. Please, I'm not in charge of everything or in control of everything, especially when my wife is not here. I'm about half here. So I'm sure they're all thinking of me. But don't let me forget anybody or overlook anything or not take care of business today. I need your help to do that. Getting out of Dodge. The word exodus means the way out. And they never would have gotten out if it hadn't been for somebody's mother. Let's go on just a little bit farther. Here in Hebrews chapter 2, we're taking a couple of steps back in the scriptures that we've been looking at. And listen, there are probably favorite verses that you have and favorite Bible themes. And you probably enjoy hearing preaching about a certain kind of thing. But at some time in your life, you need to hear some kind of sermon on every verse in the Bible. All the Bible's good all the time. And so Exodus might be one of those. You say, well, what has that got to do with Jesus? Well, just about everything in the world to do with Jesus. But right here in chapter 2 of Exodus, verse 1, it says, a Hebrew man from the tribe of Levi married a woman who was also from that tribe. You see, God chose a special person, a particular person. Maybe he wasn't all that special. Never seen all that much. There were certainly some unique things about Abraham. But he became the person whom God said, okay, we're starting right here. And God made a covenant with Abraham, and he says, my intention is to use you and your family to be able to bless everybody that wants a blessing, to be able to bless everybody in the whole world. It was actually, we know that Jesus came through Abraham's bloodline, through the lineage of Abraham. And so that was God's plan in the mind of Christians today, that when God picked out Abraham, his whole plan was to have a particular people whom he would unify, and that he would guide them and lead them through all their ups and downs. I believe there were lots of those, lots of trials and failures. But God was gracious, and God was especially good to them. And a lot of people say, well, what's all the deal about the Jews? Why do some people hate the Jews so much? Why do some people seem to have such honor and respect for the Jews? What is it about the Jews? Well, it's you see, Jesus was became and still is the most important historical figure who's ever lived. And there are still some people say, well, we're really not sure if Jesus ever really existed. Well, that's not true. There's plenty of evidence, and not just in the Bible. There is plenty of evidence, and there's a historical impact too, that if Jesus didn't exist, more to-do has been made about him than anybody else who has ever lived. More books written, more songs sung, more sermons preached, more lives changed, more structures and architecture raised because of Jesus. And that's really what it's all about. And we see here that Abraham was born. He had a son named Isaac, and then Isaac had a son named Jacob. Jacob had 12 sons, and those 12 sons formed the foundation for 12 tribes. One of those sons was named Levi. The Levites were to be the priestly line. All of the priests and the high priest were to be related to that one son. It's all in God. God is a big believer in genealogy and family trees. But there says a Hebrew man for the tribe of Levi and a woman from that same tribe. And they were distantly related, but actually not. You see, their names are not even mentioned right here at all. We learn from Exodus chapter 6, verse 20, that the father's name was Amram, and his mother's name was Jochebed. But they're not even mentioned here. I know that moms and dads, but probably in my family and in my experience, it always has been our mothers and grandmothers who seem to do the things they have to do more with life and living. Fathers sometimes are absent, not always, but there are good fathers and good mothers all across time and space. And probably we should recognize the people that we love or who have been important in our lives more than we do or we have. But right here, this mom and this dad would probably say, you know, we're not central to this story, but God used us. Now, when I say they were distantly related, the distance was very, very close. As a matter of fact, later on, when God spoke to Moses on Mount Sinai, he delivered laws that would have prohibited Amram and Jochebed from being married. In other words, it would have been illegal or against the law of Moses for his mother and father to be married. That's another sermon, though, and another story. That's just to pique your interest just a little bit. But we find here that this story about Moses would not have been possible without his parents, particularly his mother. Because look, the woman conceived and a son was born, and when she saw that he was perfect. Now that's my own personal translation right there, and I believe it's within the bounds, because the King James Version says that she saw that he was a goodly child. I know what that means in mother speak. That means my baby is perfect. Is perfect. You ever looked at a woman and said, she thinks her baby can do no wrong. She thinks her baby is perfect. Well, that's what mothers, that's what they see, and that's how they feel. And I believe that's when she looked at Moses. Do you know that there was a decree that had been given by Pharaoh himself saying that all of the male children born to Hebrews were to be destroyed? If you find any culture or any political system, if you've ever discovered any country or any world where Someone says, I've got a solution to the problem. Let's kill the babies. You'll know then that that's the height, or the depth rather, of wickedness. If the solution to any problem you ever faced is, well, let's kill the baby. Well, throughout history, that is not something new for our time. That is not something unique. We've been destroying our children in so many different ways throughout human history. It is the depth of depravity. But she hid him. She hid him. She hid him 3 months. And when she could no longer hide him, she created a small boat. The Bible calls it an ark. There are 2 arks in the Bible, actually 3, if you count the Ark of the Covenant. Noah's Ark, the Ark of the bulrushes, and the Ark of the Covenant. Made from the local bulrushes. One of my favorite chapters written by Samuel Clemens, Mark Twain. He wrote the story of all different kinds, Huckleberry Finn, Tom Sawyer. And Tom Sawyer, one of the first chapters, if not the first chapter, is entitled Moses and the Bulrushes. Tom Sawyer went to Sunday school. He had no idea what bulrushes were or who Moses was. He was trying to figure it out. But she made it waterproof and put her son in it. And then she laid it in the tall grass by the bank of the river. The baby's sister watched over him from a hiding place nearby. In other words, they just got him out of the house because they were probably going house to house. Probably going house to house looking for babies to destroy. So they made him a little grass boat. Put him out in the water. And his sister was watching. Let's go on, Carter, the next slide. One day the daughter of Pharaoh came to wash herself in the river. Her maidens walked along the river's side, but the princess herself saw the ark among the weeds, and she sent one of her maids to bring it to her. And when she'd opened it, she saw the child, and he started crying. And the princess had compassion on him and said, "This is one of the Hebrews' children." We were at a restaurant Friday night. Shows you can tell if you're getting old, or at least this is a sign of my age. We were at a restaurant Friday night, and we were having our supper there, and just about the time for us to leave, somebody brought in a little baby to the restaurant, and he wasn't hungry or happy, or I don't know. It could have been a he or a she. But I looked around at our crew that was with us, and I said, well, it's time to go. It's a crying baby. And I think that's not only maybe just an old thing, I think that might be a lot of a man thing. Honey, the baby's crying. I don't know how to make him stop. I don't know. Daddies don't know. Here's some money. Here's a ball. I don't know. Make funny faces. Pharaoh's daughter looked at the baby and started crying. And it just melted her heart. It just, women are the only people I know that they run toward a crying baby. The baby starts crying, and daddy starts saying, "Uh-oh, my baby's crying. Whoa." I got to get out of Dodge. I don't want to be around no crying baby, because that could mean one thing. That baby's diaper needs to be changed. But it's got did you hear about that guy? Man, he kept his child while mother went out on a woman's night out. And she came in, and the baby was crying and unhappy, and she checked his diaper, and the diaper was just full. I'm not going to describe it in much detail. And she said, "Well, why didn't you change the diaper?" And he said, "Well, it says right on the box up to 15 pounds. Don't leave your babies with men much if you can help it. I'll be all right. They'll work it out." Baby started crying, and Pharaoh's daughters. I don't know her story. We don't know her name at all. We don't know her name at all. But believe me, this story could not have happened. We'd never know a thing about Moses. His mother was being very heroic. She was very brave. She was defying Pharaoh. I think it ran in the family. Moses didn't think he had it in him. But I think maybe one day, when God was saying, now you go into Pharaoh and tell him, let my people go. And Moses said, oh man, that'd be crazy to do that. And she said, you know, my mama stood up to Pharaoh. She wasn't scared of him. She hid me, and that's why I'm here today. There are a lot of nameless mothers. Let's go on to the next slide there, Carter. The baby's sister came from her hiding place. And we know from the story later on that this little girl's name is Miriam. She's probably about 7 years old. She had some grit in her too. It's Pharaoh's daughter. Listen, I don't know if you understand that kind of situation, but you didn't speak to Pharaoh's family or look at them. You always put your head down. They were slaves. She came busting out from behind a tree somewhere. She said, shall I bring a nurse of the Hebrew women that she may nurse the child for you? And the princess replied, go. And nobody was fooled by this. Pharaoh's daughter knew. That little girl over there, she didn't just happen to be watching. She was standing guard. Oh, thank God for sisters and brothers and siblings that helped. She was just doing what her mama told her to do. I know somebody could nurse that baby. Now, that's not anybody could nurse a baby. It has to be somebody that recently had a baby. You know that, don't you? Just a little bit of biology you're throwing in there. There are occasionally people that be in a tribe or in a community who could perpetually nurse children, but that's kind of an odd situation. That's strange, and it was often a blessing from God as well. It's not uncommon. Pharaoh's daughter, the princess, though, knew immediately. Well, she's talking about this baby's mom. She said, go get her. And the girl went and called the child's mother. This Miriam. She comes in, Mom, the jig is up. So they found the baby. They found the baby. Just fear washed over. Just fear. Because it's not just that this baby's life might be ended. It might be that everybody in her family might be destroyed because of her actions. And the girl went and called the child's mother, and Pharaoh's daughter said to her, take this child and nurse it for me. I'll pay you to take care of it. I found many times in my life that God does things like that. God does things where He just seems like you're at death's door or that you're at the end of your rope. And God comes through and He does things, and then He goes that so far beyond that you think, I never would have imagined it would have been like this. I've seen it time and time again in my life. The goodness of God. You take care of this baby just like it is his mom. And I'll pay you to do it. The woman took the child and nursed it, and the child grew, and she brought him to Pharaoh's daughter. He became her son. She called his name Moses, because she said, I drew him from the water. As I said, in Exodus 6, Amram and Jochebed are mentioned by name, but it's in a genealogy, it's in a list, it's in a family tree list. Who was kin to who, what their names were. But we never hear them referred to again. We don't know, they don't seem to have any part or presence in the contest between Pharaoh and Moses, or in the Exodus itself, or in the wilderness. They're never mentioned again. We don't know what happened to them. We don't know if they passed away or just receded back into the back of the story. And were not particularly or especially essential to the story after Moses came on the scene and was doing God's will. If these things happen, let me tell you something. When I became a Christian, I began to long that God would do great things through me. And that He would accomplish things. He would use me in everything that He wanted to do. And I didn't have an idea of what to do. Or I didn't have dreams of how to proceed. I didn't have visions of what I wanted to accomplish. What I began to do was always asking God, God, what do you want me to do? What do you want me to do? As I wanted to only do, as I went along and learned about ministry and learned about the Christian life, I learned about all the different things that you could do or that you could become or that could happen. But I continued on the path of saying, Lord, the most important thing as I take one more step is, what do you want me to do? And throughout my life in ministry, when someone would come and say, why did you do that? I wouldn't say, well, it seemed like the best thing to do, or it just looked like I had a good idea. I never said that because that was never true. To their disbelief, often I would say, I'm persuaded completely, I'm convinced that that's what God wanted me to do. That's what God wanted me to do. I never have spent a lot of time trying to think of lofty or great or grand things to do. I spend all of my time finding out what God wants, what He wishes. How can I fit in that? Lord, what can I do that you want me to do? I never bring things to Him and say, Lord, this seems like a real good idea. What do you think of it? Lord, I'm asking you to bless this good idea I had. I never do that. This was happening in the plan and the will of God. You know what I have found? That seeking to be greatly used of a wonderful God, that the fact of the matter is that someone that I met, someone that I introduced to Christ, or maybe one of my children, or one of my grandchildren, and that's the reason I was born. Maybe the whole reason that you're in this world is that you brought Moses into the world, or you taught Moses in Vacation Bible School. These people are so crucial, so important. Look at that next slide, Carter. Daddies, I couldn't wait till my kids got to where they could catch a ball. I remember, I've wondered sometimes when I was throwing a ball to Carice, she seemed to be confused as to whether she was left-handed or right-handed. When I found out that she was ambidextrous. She heard that guy say, I'd get my right hand to be ambidextrous. If I could work or use either hand, I wonder if when this little bitty tiny Carice throw her ball and she caught it and says, I wonder if this comes in other shapes. And every time she saw a ball from then on, she said, that's what I want to do right there. I want to kick that. I want to throw that. I want to pass that. I want to catch that. I want to hit it. Even when she got to college, she sneaked around, and she went there on a college basketball scholarship, and she sneaked around and joined the volleyball team. Coach called her and said, oh no, you're not going to be jumping up and down slapping balls and getting slapped in your face. You're going to play basketball. So she couldn't do two sports, but she did 2, 3, or 4 when she was in high school. Nobody cared about it then. Oh man, we had to follow her around, and that's where somehow or another I found an escape clause. Pops is not absolutely legally required to go everywhere that gymnastics and dance takes place. I got kind of an out. I found that out because I had to miss one, and nobody cared. Nobody even noticed it. Stepmother wasn't his mother. That's what stepmother means. Not my mom. Not the mom. But the Bible says that he became her son. Some of you have been mama to somebody that wasn't your child. You've been a foster mother, or you've been an aunt, you've been a sister. I see women, they seem to have this wonderful blessing from God. Not every woman has it. No. But far more women than men. I see the ability to come in when someone needs, children need more than it, obviously. They need a lot of love and a lot of care and a lot of concern. I've always been grateful that as I've raised my kids in church, a lot of people didn't like the preacher, and that's okay because the preacher's supposed to get up and make you mad anyway. You're supposed to be about halfway in hate with him anyway. That's all right. I've always loved my kids, seems like. And they've helped raise my kids. They've spent the night over at their house. They've babysat for them. They've sat on them and sat with them. They've took them places. They picked them up when we couldn't. They met us at the hospital when we picked up our kids, and we couldn't have gotten through our lives. And we continue to do that without church people, without God's people. And so on Mother's Day, never forget those people who are mother and didn't have to be. They chose to be. That last slide there, Carter. Moses is another one of those great people in human history. He would not have survived at all without his mother. He would not have survived at all without his stepmother. God had something he was doing. You have a wonderful, wonderful calling. And it may sometimes seem to be more than you can bear, more than you can carry, more responsibility than you thought. But you can do it. You can do it. You'll make it. You're going to do a good job. You're going to make some mistakes and some things are going to go wrong. But you're going to be all right. You're going to be all right. You're going to make it. And someday those kids are going to look back, not just when you're passed on, but all of your life. You ever seen they used to do it a lot on the wide world of sports. Cameras at sporting. They always zoom in on the star. He just made a touchdown. He just caught a ball. He just hit a home run. And here he is. He's in the dugout, or he's on the sidelines, or he's sitting over on the bench, and the camera zooms in right in. And this is famous. He makes millions of dollars a year, and he's famous. He's in all the magazines, and they zoom right in. Do you know what he says every single time? Hi, Mom! The dad said, what am I? Chip beef? Hi, Mom. There's nobody like her. Nobody like her. Especially when they're devoted and dedicated to a God who says, let me show you how to be the mom I want you to be. Let me lead you. Let me guide you. Wake up every morning like that mother who prays that Danny sang about, saying, Lord, show me today what to do, how to be. Because everyone that you mother has potential of being Moses. Maybe the greatest thing you could ever do. Nobody knew who Jochebed was, but now you know her name. What great thing did she do? What wondrous thing did she do that changed the world? People are still fighting in the courts whether or not to put her son's commandments in the courthouse. What did you do? I was Moses' mother. I was somebody's mother. What did you do? I was somebody's stepmother. I stood in and I became a mother to someone. Thank God for womanhood, for motherhood. Thank God for His love and His plan, because nobody loves us more than God. That's why we're always torn about how much we need to love and be devoted to Mary, the mother of Jesus, because she's so important in the story of Jesus. Sometimes, there are people that they want to be a little bit too devoted to Mary, and that, for us as Protestants, that might be an occasion. But someone told me one time, he says, I know how to deal with it. Over in John's Gospel, chapter 2, Jesus and his disciples had been invited to a marriage celebration in Cana of Galilee. And they ran out of refreshments. And they came, evidently Mary was supposed to be somewhat in charge of the refreshments. I said, well, we're out of wine. We don't have nothing to drink. And she came and she asked Jesus to do something. There was a little bit of son-daughter play there. He said, woman, what am I going to do with you? You're going to get me killed? You're right on the spot. I'm just getting started. It was just in humor, because She just simply turned around and she turned to the people who were serving at the wedding. She says, she pointed to Jesus and she said, whatever he tells you to do, do it. Do whatever he tells you to do. Mothers, that's your message. That's your message. Fathers, that's your message. There's Jesus right there. Do whatever he tells you to do. Let's pray together. Father, thank you for your glory, your grace, and thank you for your presence here today. If there's anyone here today who's never made a personal commitment and decision to make you Lord of their life, I pray that they would do that in their heart, in their very soul right now. You hear that prayer without any other ado. Lord, you speak to us today. Talk to us. Let the messages and the lessons of our mother echo in our hearts. Have your will and your way in our lives. Let us be a part of your plan, your great, great plan. Maybe there's a Moses here today, or maybe just someone else who's going to know a Moses or help a Moses. You lead us during this time of decision because we are yours. And we pray this in your name. Amen. Brother Dan, what's our hymn invitation today?
190.
Number 190. Would you turn there in your white hymnal? Let's all stand together this morning. Has God spoken to your heart? Some decision He wants you to make. I've said all I came to say. God speaks. He has much more to say in your